This lesson will talk about how to find the surface area of rectangular prisms. The first thing we need to think about is what is surface area and how does it relate to volume. When we think about the volume of something, we're talking about the space that an object takes up. It's measured in units cubed, that's what that little 3 means right there, and what we're talking about is filling up the inside of a shape. So if we'd consider the volume of our classroom, we'd be thinking about the air inside our 3D classroom. Okay, the space occupied everything on the inside of our classroom. The surface area is kind of the opposite. If the volume is about the inside of the shape, the surface area is about the outside of the shape. It's the amount of material it would take to cover the outside of a 3D object. So when we think about our classroom, what parts of our classroom are the outside? This is talking about the walls, the ceiling, and the floor. Volume is kind of like how much water would it take to fill something up. Surface area is kind of like how much paint would it take to cover something. Okay, wrapping paper is another good illustration of surface area. How much wrapping paper does it take to cover something perfectly? Surface area, because it is an area, is measured in units squared. This is an important difference from volume. We're going to go through and do 2 examples together. These are the top 2 on your worksheet of worksheet A. When we look at a rectangular prism and we think to ourselves, I need to find the surface area, we need to ask ourselves what shapes make up this 3-dimensional object and how many are there? When I look at this rectangular prism, the first thing I notice is that I have 3 different numbers, an 10, a 7, and an 8. And what this tells me here is I have 3 different measurements, a different length, a different width, and a different height. So I know I'm going to have 3 different sides because I have 3 different numbers. But I need to think about how many of each side I have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to outline. This shape right here is the first one that I see. And when I outline it, I want to think to myself, okay, that shape right there, does it have a match? Well, on a rectangular prism, picture a Kleenex box. One side of the Kleenex box matches the other side, right over here. So we're going to start to give these shapes names. We're going to say this is shape A. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to mark down shape A, and I'm going to write down what I know about shape A. Shape A is a rectangle, so the area, I'm going to use length times width. When I look at shape A, I know it is 10 centimeters long, and when I look at how tall it is, there's no number here, but if I look across to my parallel sides, I see that it is 8 tall. So this side here is 8, this side here is 10. When I multiply it together, I get 80 centimeters squared. But this right now is only 1A. There are 2 of them here. So what I need to do is I'm going to double this. I want 2 A's, which means I'm going to take 80 times 2, and I'm going to get 160 centimeters squared. So this right now has covered this orange shape A. Now I'm going to change colors, and I'm going to find shape B. Now obviously you don't have different colors to change to probably, so you're going to want to make sure you're marking on your shape as you go which parts you have already covered. The goal of surface area is to cover all parts, all outside faces of an object. So the next shape I'm going to work on is this one right here. Doesn't matter what order you go in when you do this. When I outline that shape, I see it has a match at the back here, this other pink shape. And when I look for its measurements, I see that it is a 7 right here and an 8 right here. So I'm going to go length times width, and I'm going to go 7 times 8, which is equal to 56 centimeters squared. But again, that value right there is only for one of them. Just like this was 1A, this is only 1B. So if I want 2 of them, I need to multiply this by 2. 56 times 2 is going to be 112 centimeters square. So at this point, I'm almost done. If I think about what I've covered 2 sides here, and 2 sides here. But I know on a rectangular prism, there are 6 sides. So that means there are 2 more that I need to cover. We're going to call those sides C. And the side that I haven't covered yet, I would call this kind of the top and the bottom. So these 2 sides right here, when I think about their measurements, if I look at this top piece, I see it is 7 by 10. So I know it's a rectangle, length times width. I'm going 7 by 10, and I'm going to have 1C is equal to 70 centimeters squared. Now I need to think about the fact that I have 2 of these, a top and a bottom. So I need to find 2 C's, which is equal to 140 centimeters squared. Now what I've done is I've found the area of the A shapes, the B shapes, and the C shapes, but the total of a surface area is all of those sides added together. So I need to add up my 2 A's and my 2 B's and my 2 C's. Now, if you make this table as you do your work, it's really easy to put plus signs in between these and add up your numbers. So this is one advantage of showing your work this way. So you can take 160 plus 112 plus 140, which is going to be 412 centimeters squared. So this is how you find the surface area of a rectangular prism with 3 different numbers. 160 plus 140 plus 112 is 412. One thing I would invite you to consider as you look at this shape, do you notice how we multiplied 10 and 7 over here, we multiplied 7 and 8 right here, and we multiplied 8 and 10 right here. So some people, when they have a hard time thinking about what numbers you need to multiply, find the 3 different values and make a circle connecting these. There needs to be a connection between 10 and 7 right there, a connection between 7 and 8 right there, and a connection between 8 and 10 right there. They still need to be doubled, but this is a good way to start. Let's try the second example together. Okay? If you think you know what you're doing, you can go ahead and try and check back in. Feel free to pause the video if you need to. When I look at this shape, one thing I notice is that not every side is different. I see a bunch of 9s. So when I think about what shapes are going to make up this 3-dimensional object, I know that part of these shapes, there's going to be a square somewhere. So what I need to consider here is, are all of these different? Like, are there going to be 3 different pairs of shapes like there were last time? Or are some of these shapes going to be the same? So you can go back to this trick. In the last example, there are 3 different numbers, so there were 3 different shapes. In this example, there are 2 different numbers, so there will only be 2 different shapes. There will be an A and there will be a B. So what we need to decide is what's what. I'm going to go ahead and outline this shape right here that I see. And when I think about this shape says it's 9 by 9 right here. If I think about finding a match, I know the match for this shape is at the bottom here. So this is also 9 by 9. But when I look to the sides to see if any of those are the same, I see this is 9 by 8. So I know right now I actually only have 2 A's. So I'm going to go ahead and do my length times width. I'm going to go ahead and multiply my 9 by 9 and get 81 centimeters squared. That's 1 A, but I need 2 of them. So this is going to be 162 centimeters squared. But now I need to figure out shape B. I see shape B as this side right here, kind of the edge of the 3D object. And I see that it's 9 by 8. What I want to do right now is check and make sure, are the other sides that I haven't done yet also the same? Well, this is 8 tall, so I need to keep that in mind that this is also 8 tall. And this is again 9 right here. Okay, those are the same. This is a 9, This is an 8. Okay, that's the same. And similarly, this is a 9, and because these are parallel, this side right here matches this side right here, which is an 8. So I know that this is also a 9 by 8 at the back. So when I think about what I'm actually going to have here, and I go my length times width, and I go 9 times 8, and I get 72 centimeters squared, that's 1b. I'm actually going to have 4 of these. So I'm going to take 72 times 4, just like over here, I did 81 times 2. And when I do 72 times 4, I get 288 centimeters squared. That covers the area of the sides of this object. So to find my total surface area, again, I add my totals together. 162 plus 288 gives me 450 centimeters squared for my total surface area. The trick with surface area is making sure you multiply the correct numbers. Please go back and watch this video as often as you need to, pausing it. Remember, 2 different numbers, you'll have 2 different shapes. 3 different numbers, you're going to have 3 different shapes. Good luck. Please try the worksheet on your own. If you get 1 wrong or less, so you get all of them right, or you just miss 1, you can move on. If you do not, please go back, rewatch this video, and try paper B. Good luck.